skeletons speak with such a screech. You'll shake and shudder in surprise when you hear these zombies shriek. Spooky, scary skeletons and shivers down your spine. Shrieking skulls will shock your soul and seal your doom tonight.
Hi, welcome back to my channel. I am Parris, the author of the Dark World series, an epic fantasy series available online and in-store everywhere books are sold. Today, for Blood Talk, we are going to be discussing vampires. I know I've talked about vampires before on my channel, but this is going to be more of a personal slant and where I stand on vampires in terms of academic research, in terms of research I've done, in terms of how I view them and why I write about them and all that good stuff. So if you haven't seen any of the previous videos where I've talked about vampires at length, then sit down because this will be an all-in-one type video. So, I noticed that my screen name here and on Twitter, Vampire Blood Queen or Vampire Queen, elicits a kind of response in people who love vampires. And I love vampires also, but these people I have recently been meeting or whatever have really shown me that I don't love vampires as much as I thought I did. And that's okay. I'm not looking to be part of any type of vampire fandom or any kind of fandom at all anyway, period. So I just want to talk about why I call myself Vampire Queen or why other people call me that. That's really where the name came from. Someone called me that on Twitter and I ran with it. I love vampires, but I don't study them at length. If I come across a book about them, I will read it most likely. I'm just not going to go back into an academic search of millennia and years to uncover the depths and secrets of many, many, many vampires. I have already done a video about a brief history of the vampires so we can talk about where the myth of the vampire came from and how they spread, which I believe should be common knowledge to anyone, but I'm not going to go deeper than that because to me, vampires are an outlet for me to express, anxiety and depression and death and grief and all those things, and a million authors have done the same thing before me. But what's unique to my take is that, I don't know, I'm a black girl and I just like writing vampires. Like, I don't think deeply about what I write about until I'm in the middle of writing it and then I see the themes and things that come out. I just write because I want to write. And that brings me to another thing. I don't know where it came from that you have to have this insane knowledge about a thing or agree with that knowledge. I will admit that, things about vampires exist. That's perfectly fine. But when I speak about vampires, unless I specifically say otherwise, I am mostly only talking about my vampires in my books. That may be selfish, that may be, I don't know, but when I'm on Twitter, I'm selling myself and I'm selling my books, so it just stands to reason that I'm going to be selling my work, not the work of a dead author or the work of other vampire authors, which there are many of, and I've made a whole video about that previously. I'm focused on myself, and if that's selfish or rude to say that, then so be it, because I'm trying to make a career for myself out of my writing. Moving on. Yeah, I've just been met with an influx of people who are obsessed with vampires, or, vampires are their personality, and that's fine. I think I was that way a little bit when I was growing up, and then I just channeled that love of this creature into books. I started writing books because I was good at writing and I wanted to write about vampires, and that's it. I wouldn't call myself like a vampire girl or like vampires are my whole existence. Like, I think they're sexy, I think they're hot, I think what they represent and, death and a yearning for something you need all the time or else it will kill you and you have to get it through horrible means. Like, I love that. I'm not gonna go into that right now, but I just want to this is just for like the people who think that I'm like, just about vampires and that's it, and I don't really like any other creature. I write about tons of other mythical creatures in my books. Alright, there's always werewolves, there's witches, there's centaurs, there's fairies, there's a whole bunch of different creatures in my books. My books are not mostly just never going to be just about vampires. There's always going to be something else there. And I'm saying if you do write about vampires, it's perfectly fine. This has nothing to do with you. I'm just saying for me, in my experience with being in the online sphere, that there's this erroneous thought going around that I am this vampire like only vampire person. And I've stopped recently like retweeting and liking almost every single vampire media that I come across on Twitter, because the way that I've seen people like fawn over vampires and vampires are sexy and all that, the way I've seen them fawn over vampires is not the way that I want to be seen as a creator, as a writer. I appreciate vampires, like they are sexy, they like, you know, they're hot, but they stand for something deeper, and I'm not just gonna like a picture of a vampire because they're just a white, sexy, hot vampire. I try to like things on my Twitter, and I try to interact with things on my Twitter that I actually care about more than just the appearance. Like if you've watched other videos of mine, I do say, and on Twitter, I do say that I have stopped like just adding people because they're hot or they're cute, because once you do that and then you find out you have nothing in common with them, it becomes like a really pointless like parasocial relationship. And that's how I approach everything in my life. Goth music, just book light, anything. I do not make all these things the main point of my personality, and I don't think anybody should make something outside themselves their whole personality, because say you grow out of that thing and people will expect you to still have that persona. Like I just think it's really fake, and I just think like aesthetic, like you can have an aesthetic, that's fine, like you can dress however the fuck you want, that's fine, but for me, I value the person more than I value are they pretty to look at. I like having nice things to look at. I love my cat. I love my husband. They're beautiful to look at. I love having nice things around me to look at and love. But deeper than that, does my husband treat me well? Does my cat not claw at me all the time? Like you have, like for me at least, I have to have a deeper, not even deeper, this is just basic things to me, but apparently it's not, because just from what I've seen from Twitter alone, I don't really go on any other social media sites anymore, but from what I've seen from Twitter alone is that it's just this like the way you look, that's it. The way you look and what you like and how you present yourself is more important than who you actually are as a person. And I will be the first one to tell you, like I've said a million times, I am not just this vampire person. I am not just this like goth aesthetic whatever person. I don't just like the music for like internet points. I don't just like talking about the music because I want to seem edgier than other people and I want to seem different than other people. Like hell no. Like I have gone out to clubs back when clubs were open. I have, you know, helped supported friends in the scene who are trying to get their music out there. I'm constantly talking about Anders manga. Like I post about these things not because they're the cool thing to do right now, but because that's what I actually like. Like this is my life. Like this is me and my husband's life. And even him, like he's stuck with the vampire bug too. Like he's a wrestler, and with his previous iteration of his gimmick, like people keep saying that he's a vampire, and they kept calling me a blood witch when I walked him out to the ring. I mean, they kept calling me a vampire, but I'm a blood witch. Like I'm a witch who does blood magic, and he is a demon. Like we're satanic characters, like and we're Satanists in real life. Like there's no vampire about it, except for the fact that I write vampires, but that's separate from our wrestling gimmick. So everybody sees red eyes and they see like the grills that he has and they say vampire, and he's not, he's a demon. So it's just, I just want to talk about that. Like that's it. Like that's it. I'm more than just vampire blood queen. I would like to be known as a writer who writes mostly about vampires. Like that would be fantastic. If you hear S.E. Parris, you hear vampire, which some people have said they have already started, like, you know, making that parallel, and that's my goal, that's my marketing, that's what I want, that's my brand. But I just want to stress that, like, as much as I love vampires, I do not like talking about them all the time. I don't like going super in-depth on work that's not really mine. I don't really like analyzing vampires who have been written years ago. I'd rather read about vampires now. I respect and understand where the vampire myth has come from. I respect what past authors have done with the vampire. I respect almost all iterations of those vampires, but that just doesn't mean that I have to like all of them, and it doesn't mean that I have to actively know every nook and cranny about vampires, if that makes sense. I don't even know where this video is going. But yeah, I'm S.E. Parris, the vampire blood queen, or vampire queen, or blood queen, or whatever the fuck you want to call me. I write about vampires. I am not a scholar right now. Even if I was a scholar, my focus wouldn't be on just vampires. I would go into more about horror and monsters and why we are attracted to them, like I do with Monster Thoughts, which is the whole point of that part of my channel. But yeah, so just going back to it, and if you don't know who I am SC Parris, Vampire Blood Queen, and I write about vampires, and that's pretty much it. That is the big mystery behind my screen names on YouTube and on Twitter. And that's all I have to say, because I just want to clarify that, because I'm noticing that a lot of people have started to like follow me thinking that I'm just like a vampire lover, and as much as I love vampires, I'm not obsessed with that. I don't go that deep into it. For me, it's my books, like, and it's my work, it's my writing. Like, I like writing about them, I like reading about them, but I'm not gonna sit here and analyze 50,000-year-old works about vampires just because you expect me to do that, because you think because I'm called the SC Parris Vampire Blood Queen that that's what I'm about, when it's not. So this was just a little rant or a clarification, so that if you come across my channel or my Twitter, you have some idea about what I'm actually about, and you don't just make assumptions based off of my name. And I make it very clear in my bio that says vampire author. Like, that's the reason that I call myself Vampire Blood Queen, and that's the reason why others call me that. So if you've read the Dark World series, please let me know in the comments below. If you want to read it, please let me know in the comments below. I have the first book on Patreon. If you're a patron, I love you. Thank you for still supporting me while I took that break. I am back. We're going to try to get more videos done. And yeah, this was Blood Talk. I will see you guys next time when I talk about witchcraft.